Death Stranding's multiplayer will not be revolutionary, but it will be impeccably executed. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about the multiplayer of Death Stranding and exactly how it works. Now, making this video was a bit harder than I initially thought it would be, but that's only because in the midst of writing a finished multiplayer theory for the game, the Tokyo Game Show happened and the multiplayer aspect of Death Stranding was nearly completely revealed to us. So obviously not every aspect of the theory that I had written down was correct, so with my heart in tiny minuscule little pieces, I had to scrap pretty much all of the research that I'd done and instead bring the video that I have here today. But don't let that little fact dishearten you, because while watching the Tokyo Game Show gameplay, I realized one thing: that for the most part, the theory that I had in mind was completely right. I feel paralyzed. For those of you guys who are fans of the JRPG genre, or any RPG genre really, the multiplayer aspect that you saw in the TGA gameplay probably wasn't the biggest surprise to you. And I say that with the most welcoming arms because I love this game and it hasn't even come out yet. But I'm not so sure I'd call the multiplayer new, let alone revolutionary. Now before you throw up your pitchforks and torches and start rioting like I'm Old Man Jenkins, don't kill me yet and just hear me out. Death Stranding's multiplayer will focus on two core principles. Number one, that no two playthroughs by two separate people are actually in the same universe, so to speak. You'll never physically encounter another player. And number two, despite that fact, players from across other playthroughs all across the world can offer unique indirect forms of help to aid you on your specific playthrough. Let me give you a couple of examples so that you know what I mean. After connecting an area to the Strand, which has greater story details associated with it that I'd like to talk about in another video, but I digress, you'll be able to essentially interact with other players that are in the same area as you in their playthrough while still in your playthrough. So indirectly is what I'm saying. Things like using other people's ladders, picking up packages that were dropped and finishing another person's delivery, using others' man-made baths to get a quick heal, and even as far as asking others for help in the middle of a boss battle, in which case they'll start throwing boosters at you in an effort to help you succeed. In none of these interactions do you ever see the movement of another player, but instead anything that they can do to help that doesn't involve actually being next to you can probably be done in Death Stranding. And I could tell Kojima takes a lot of pride in this aspect of the game, going as far as to even implement a system where you could drop a like on any of the fabrications left by other players to express your gratitude towards them. Heck, you can even cheer on players going through a boss fight in shadow form to give them some encouragement. And building entire bridges together piece by piece, little by little, yeah, you could do that too. So why, you ask, do I dare call the multiplayer of this game not new and not revolutionary? I mean, surely I've never seen anything like it before. Well, simply put, it's because I have, and not once but on multiple occasions. In my humble opinion, the only reason everyone is raving about how this works, especially over there in Japan, is because the vast majority of the target audience of this game are not RPG players. Heck, if this game came out 2 years ago, I would have been an RPG player and I would have been just as blown away as everyone else. The fact of the matter is that a lot of RPG games have been doing this at their core for years. It's not really a new concept. In fact, 3 weeks ago when I released my comprehensive theory of Death Stranding, which I do recommend you check out if you haven't already, I responded to a comment from Jeff Stack when he asked me what my opinion on the multiplayer of Death Stranding would be like. He gave his own opinion as well, which actually lined up relatively well with mine. It basically consisted of a theory stating that the DS multiplayer would be very RPG-like in nature, specifically giving the example of Dark Souls, except with what he calls much more cooperation. Also saying that every DS playthrough can be considered as an alternate universe that is superimposed onto one another by what we now know as the Strand and Sam's Cupid. Now, when I saw his comment, I was inflamed, as he was the first person I saw who had a similar opinion on what the multiplayer would be like. Of course, my opinion did differ a little bit, but not by much, and I'll get to that later. My only issue is I posted my video on the connection theory on August 31st, 2019. It took me around a week to make that video, so I can confidently say that I had the idea for the video in my head as early as August 24th. This is important because at the time I actually couldn't decide on whether or not to make a comprehensive theory or to release a multiplayer theory of Death Stranding. But obviously, as time has told, I went with the comprehensive theory. And the reason that's an issue is because that left me with no documentation that I had thought of my own theory before watching the recent gameplay that came out on September 12th. What makes matters worse is that I was for the most part right, but I looked like a complete clown releasing a roughly 85% correct theory after the proof came out, so I had to scrap the whole thing and start from scratch. And I couldn't even use my replies to Jeff as proof, because even though my replies to him contained some of what I was going to say, he commented a whopping 2 weeks after the video initially came out and approximately 5 days after the multiplayer gameplay was released. You let me down, Jeff. Now, whether or not Jeff's theories were fabricated before or after watching the gameplay is up in the air. Heck, I don't even know if he watched the gameplay at all. Feel free to fill us in down below, Jeff. But I do know that I was thinking about this for a long time, before the gameplay even. So I just thought I'd throw that little story time in there to help explain the large gap between videos, but I guess you don't have to believe it if you don't want to. Continuing on though, in a nutshell, I thought that Death Stranding would be very similar to an RPG, and I would have mentioned 2017's Nier Automata. And boy, was that more correct than I thought it could be. In Nier, every time you died, your dead body in that particular instance was left behind for other players to discover. Players on the web could find each other's deceased bodies and either choose to absorb their abilities for a short period of time, or to literally revive them and have the AI control their build to help you fight. This happened frequently, and the game even let you know how many times someone had revived you when you died, and how many prayers your body received on someone else's screen when another player had happened to pass by. You could even leave a customized dying message for whoever managed to find you, often laying down cryptic and arguably useless clues as to how you died in hopes that another person didn't follow in your footsteps. And this interaction is very similar to what we saw in Death Stranding's TGA gameplay. Players never really meet on screen, but they could help each other out in different ways. And Nier isn't the only game to have implemented a system like this either. This concept of help in spirit has been around in RPGs dating back to the initial release of World of Warcraft in 2004. Heck, pretty much every and any RPG nowadays implements some form of this feature, including but not limited to Nier Automata, Persona 5, World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Diablo, Dark Souls, Final Fantasy, Fallout, The Witcher, Skyrim, and even failed problem children like Wizard 101 and Paragon. Look, my point is that this concept of spirit gaming with others is not new. It's actually been around for a while. But, and this is a big but, Death Stranding's take on it might be the most in-depth and unique one that I've ever seen, and that is not an exaggeration. I mean, across all of the aforementioned titles, not one can claim an entire social system of likes like Death Stranding can. None of them can claim a proper system of give and take, where it may benefit you to give this booster away since it was too heavy. In those games, players just benefited off your death or on things that you didn't want anyways. So everything that is cycled in Death Stranding won't come out of thin air like most other RPGs. If you pick something up off the ground in Death Stranding, it's because someone made the conscious decision to leave it there, not because of any other gaming RNG, and that is absolutely massive. And if you drop an item, it's gone for good. For someone else to pick up and take, you'll never see it again. Not like other games at all. Other games would be like dropping $100 on the ground, having someone else pick it up, but still respawning with your $100 in your inventory or at the spot that you initially died for it to be retrieved. In Death Stranding, that 100 is gone for good. It's either been destroyed by the weather, BT/mules, or someone else came along and took it before you ever had the chance to get it back, just like real life. And in Death Stranding, the entire map seems to be your canvas in terms of multiplayer. Any place, anywhere will be under the multiplayer's jurisdiction, unlike other RPGs where there might be designated zones or restrictions on where and when you can access its effects. And here's the kicker. Kojima Productions has just announced that you won't need a PS Plus subscription to access the multiplayer's features, and I doubt it'll take more than a 2 megabits per second internet speed to reliably upload and download relevant information. So that means that there should be no reason that everyone playing this game isn't on the net unless they opt out. But why would anybody do that? It would probably make the game significantly harder and less enjoyable. And the craziest part about this, I think, isn't even the fact that Kojima is somehow magically managing to reinvent the RPG wheel with how he's implementing this constant feeling of being alone, but not really, but instead it's how he's doing it in a game that is arguably not even an RPG. I mean, obviously Kojima has advertised this game as having a new genre, and I can't really fault him for that. The RPG elements are old enough to be recognizable, but twisted enough to honestly not even be considered an RPG element. And aside from the multiplayer, the game is far from an RPG and more closely related to an action-adventure game. It's really impressive to see how the studio is managing to keep such a delicate balance of so many different influences and inspirations. It's almost to the point that even the game itself might not know what it is, or perhaps the more likely option, we just don't know enough to decipher it yet. Kojima himself said at the TGA, "You're just going to have to play it yourself to understand what I mean." And I think we'll leave it at that. Death Stranding will not be something entirely unfamiliar, but it will most definitely be a game changer. From what I'm seeing, probably the cleanest, most polished, and innovative iteration of any action-adventure, MMORPG, or whatever the hell it is, to come out in a long time. And for that, I am wholly excited. Anyways folks, if you liked the video, give it a like, and if you disliked the dislike, be sure to check out more gaming content on the channel if you are so inclined. I've been really appreciating all the support in between videos. You know, while I've been dying in school, it really means more than I can express. You guys are literally the foundation of this channel, and thanks for giving a guy like me a chance. And for all you new ladies and gents out there, don't forget to hit the sub button if you think I may be worth your time. Everyone here is a family, and we'd love to have you guys on board. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace out.